Great news. Everyone's reviewed it. Tests are looking good. We're ready to deploy the contract. We're going to walk through the deployment script. This is located in scripts/deploy.py. And this one's fairly simple. First thing, when you're deploying to the live mainnet is you have to work with actual accounts. So when you're dealing with accounts in Brownie, first thing you're going to do is usually on the console, you're going to import the account using its private key or a keystore. And you're going to be prompted to save the account title. In this case, the account that's funded and could do it is dev. In this case, we're dealing with some special options for the contracts. We want to pull in the admin proxy, which we grabbed from this particular address. Curve has a few different admin proxies that are going to have the capability of controlling the contracts. On line 11, we take our fundraising gauge V1 contract and we run deploy, giving it only the admin proxy as the argument. The dictionary of options that we're passing is going to be the deployer address that we've loaded, and the priority fee, which is the gas fee above the base fee on the Ethereum mainnet that we're willing to pay. 2 Gwei usually gets things moving fairly fast without breaking the bank. And then on top of that, we have a gauge factory, which takes the fundraising gauge implementation and works with that. So the implementation address is passed and the initialization routine in the gauge factory knows what to do. Again, with the deployer contract. I would run it, but I'm in America and regulation here is crazy. So if I deploy this contract, they'll give me the electric chair. But this is how one would hypothetically deploy it. On top of that, there's another script in the deployments in which we can actually deploy first fundraising gauge using the fundraising factory. So this contract looks a little bit more complex, but it's basically the same thing. We are first pulling up the same account, which is going to be the person that's calling this. And we'd like to set a receiver address that will be responsible for receiving the emissions. When we're testing this, we just set this to the Ethereum address for the time being. But if you're actually going to run this, you would substitute the factory address with the one that we would just deployed with the other script. And you change the receiver to your address because you would probably want some money. The max emissions is also one that you can change. In this case, we're saying the particular gauge could receive a maximum of 200 Ethereum, but you can adjust that number. 200 times 10 to the 18th way. Finally, in line 14, all these notes, you want to change this to be the actual account. Factory is the gauge factory that was deployed to the factory address. Here it's using the interfaces feature of Brownie to know that this particular address is going to be of the type gauge factory v1. Gauge factory v1 is a contract in our directory, so Brownie is able to derive the interface from this and load this with the same interface, all the functionality of our gauge factory, which means this factory now inherits the deploy gauge. We deploy the receiver, deploy the max emissions from the caller, set the priority fee, and if all is successful, then it will return the new gauge's address that's logged through the events. So again, I'm in America, I can't deploy this, but hypothetically, anyone in more regulatory friendly jurisdictional environments that is interested in receiving rewards gauges can do it directly through this. It will then populate and it will be available for a Curve DAO vote. There's also a few front-end implementations talking about adding this. So the good news is this is actually past Curve governance. The VeFunder project is officially live, that means. If you've enjoyed this short mini series, you can directly go launch your own gauges now. You have everything you need. And if it passes Curve governance voting, you can receive Curve emissions to your address. Pretty cool application. Drop any questions you have in the comments, and we're interested in hearing generally what sort of brilliant ideas you have come up with for the CRVFunder VeFunder gauges.